Hello everybody and welcome back to a quick review. Today we are reviewing Parasite. It's not any old review. I'm joined by two special guests. Tom, who's been on the channel before.
Hello.
And Charlie, a new special guest. How are you both?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah, same here.
We had a bit of ball ache setting this thing up, but we think we figured it out right. So
as always.
we'll see what happens. I might sound a bit worse in quality than Tom and Charlie because they've got a better mic and they're sharing it.
It's boiling in here though.
Is it? I'm quite alright. We're in the recording booth where Nathan's kicked out into the cold.
I'm mixing this shit. I'm the disc jockey. So anyway, we watched Parasite, didn't we, guys?
Oh yeah.
First of all, should we talk about what our expectations were? Because obviously I've seen this film before, so maybe you have a fresh point of view.
Yeah.
So what were your expectations?
Well, coming into it, obviously, we've watched it post Oscars now, so standards were raised based off the fact that it's won all the Oscars basically. I weren't quite sure narrative-wise because I'll be honest, I didn't even hear of this until I know you mentioned it before it was even nominated for anything.
Of course, I'm on the trend.
Because I'm terrible for keeping my ears to the ground for actually good films coming out. I hear about Sonic the Hedgehog, but not actual good films.
Yeah. I was looking forward to it. I was excited. And I'll let you know what I think about it in this review.
Bit of teaser from Charlie.
Yeah. Obviously, it's subtitled, and I tend to fall asleep during films.
Oh no.
But I gotta let you into a secret.
You didn't.
I fell asleep for a bit, But it wasn't because it was a bad film though. It's just because I do that a lot of films. Like if you take me to any film, I might fall asleep. It's just too warm and cozy not to fall asleep.
You were complaining how cold
I remember
it was.
you complaining it was quite cold.
It was cold, but I had Nathan's jacket over the top of me, so I was warm.
Anyway, it's good that you mentioned the Oscars, Tom, because I'm sure by the end of this we'll have a discussion about the Oscars and whether we thought Parasite deserved the 4 Oscars. It won, which was the most on the night. But first of all, should we just say the good things we liked about this film? So, warnings, there will be spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, click off. But what did you two think of the film first? Because obviously I've watched it before, so maybe I would have some kind of differing watching it twice, which I did, and I'll let you know about that after you two have spoken. So, Charlie, what did you think first of all? What did you like?
I liked it, yeah. It was a good film. It's very different to what I usually watch, but it's the first time I've really watched a Korean film, and I liked there was a lot of metaphors in it, and I did like it, yeah. The story was very structurally well. I enjoyed every aspect of the different sort of... I can't really speak, but go on, Tom.
I know being a foreign film, it can be quite off-putting for subtitles, but I'm quite used to that through watching, being a complete weeb or watching the 80s Italian horror pieces.
Yeah.
So that weren't like a drawback for me, just was pretty standard at this point. Cinematography stood out for me quite massively. It was really some unique shots in there. It's, quite far out shots, almost like highlighting isolation in this home and how big this actual house is and how small these people that dwell in it.
It's interesting you talk about Korean films because recently I've been watching quite a lot. Well, not a lot, but I've watched some South Korean films. I've watched Old Boy. And I've watched some of Bong Joon-Ho stuff, which is the guy who directed this film. So I'm not sure if you've watched it. You might have watched Okja, the thing about the pigs. It's got Tilda Swinton in it. It's on Netflix. You might have watched that accidentally.
I've never seen a Korean film before.
No,
well, that film's in English, and it's got a bit of Korean.
Oh,
in it,
okay.
It's directed by Bong Joon-Ho. So
Yeah.
you might have stumbled across that.
I was very surprised when I saw it come up in the Oscars nominations. I was like, what on earth is this? But I didn't watch too much into it. like trailer wise and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's the best way to do it, I think.
And I just went into it and thought, wow. I got off a few recommendations of people that it's good. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said before. It's just a shame I fell asleep halfway through.
It's not ideal, is it? Is there anything you didn't like about this film? Because for me, it's quite close to a 5 out of 5. We'll get to our stars, but is there anything you didn't like about the film?
I always struggle to find like things I don't like in films in general, first time viewings, unless it is like an obvious thing or a really bad film. So something like this on this level, I always struggle. Like probably watching it 2 more times, I could start nitpicking and telling you about like, oh, that shot didn't quite work. But I just think like, what's the point in doing that? You're there to enjoy a film, not to pick it apart. And especially in your first time viewing, I'm just gonna watch it and take it in really, rather than take it apart. I think that's something you do when you.
Yeah, there was just one thing. I can't remember the guy's name. Do you know the guy who was the original teacher?
Yeah.
What was he called again? Sim or something. Do you know what? I struggled with the names all the way throughout this film because they're all
as you'd expect, really.
Korean.
Yeah.
But I want to know what happened to that guy. Like, where is he now? Like, is he still in? Where did he travel to?
He went abroad to go.
He went abroad, didn't he, to university? So where is he now? And also, a bit of pedo. He's a bit of a pedo, that other guy, isn't he? Kevin.
I think culturally for their sort of, I'm not clued up on the ages of all the characters, but I think culturally wise, he was fine there, but it's still a bit of a grey area.
Yeah, because. Yeah.
Like you got to think an 18-year-old getting with a 16-year-old in the UK would be all right, but grey. But then in America, that would be completely out of the question.
Just weird, innit? Yeah.
There'd be a nonce in
Do
America.
a quick Google search, see what age limit is in Korea.
Well, as you both know, this is the second time I watched the film, and for me, it improved on the second time I watched it. I didn't really expect it to. Reasons being, there's some cool setup stuff which you might have missed if you hadn't watched it the first time, like the dad for the rich family. He says something like, the housemaid was perfect, but she eats too much. She eats for 2 people. And obviously we find out later that she's been bringing food to this other guy. There was another example of that as well, which I can't quite remember at the moment. But that kind of stuff where you get set up because you're watching it again. And the first time I watched it was at home, it wasn't in the cinema. So I think that also adds an element of atmosphere that wasn't there before. Like the the score was quite good. So, especially tension towards the end. Yeah.
Towards the end, I was on edge, man. I just can't watch people getting stabbed. It's hard to watch a bit, innit?
Yeah, I'll be honest, like towards the end I thought his friend who was like, I want to get with this girl, was going to be coming back. I was waiting for him to come back.
Yeah.
I think, if you are going to say something that's bad not even bad, it's just that was a different direction the story went in. Like, it set up one thing and then it took you down a different path, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, you want to give the audience what they want, but just not what they expect, really, so they're not getting bored by a narrative. And taking down a different route doesn't exactly mean it's a bad film. It's just it set up a storyline that I just feel like there wasn't a payoff for, possibly.
Perhaps. But if you look at the beginning of the film, or the first act, and compare it to the third act, the final part of the film, it's a completely different tone of film. It's a completely different genre almost. The last 10 minutes, 20 minutes where all that stabbing is going down, like Charlie said, it's almost like a horror, the way they the camera snakes through the basement. And at the beginning it's like it's a bit of a comedy, isn't it?
Yeah, comedy heist type of thing. They're pulling off this heist of this family by getting all the family employed by them, but then it quickly switches into a thriller with this person in the basement. Because I picked up on a few, like, it was like they hit you over the head with a few of them, but with the idea of these people being sort of mutual destruction of these two people, with the people in the, sorry, let me reword this, with the people in the basement, when the family finds out about these people, and then the people in the basement find out about the family's lie at the same time, and they compare themselves to having their own nukes, of being like North Korea and South Korea, and almost assured mutual destruction if they were to tell each other the actual host's family's lies.
Yeah, and with a lot of South Korean cinema, because it's so different to what we have here, there's a lot of themes of revenge, a lot of themes of kind of classism, because obviously the poorer family live at the bottom of the hill, and it's quite a literal metaphor as they travel up the hill, and then at the end when it floods, it only affects the poorer people, and the richer people are quite happy it rains.
Yeah, like they don't feel the effects of anything caused by.
Yeah,
you know.
And you were saying there was no real payoff for the ending, and I can see where you're coming from with that, but
I meant for I just mean with that college student, going away, like I thought like that set up this idea, with the main character getting in a relationship with the girl he's teaching.
I know.
That set up this idea in my head that he was going to fall in love with her, he was going to come back, she was going, and it would start this love triangle.
Yeah.
That's how I imagined everything.
Yeah,
going
I kind of went against what he asked him to do as well, didn't he? Because he told him not to get with. Well, he didn't tell him to get with her. He said he knew him as a friend, not to get that he wouldn't get with her. But he ended up getting with her. I don't know what's so alluding about this character, because I don't think she's fit. Do you know what I mean?
I think it was more this attraction to this girl of who's would naturally be unattainable for him from being in his economic position. Yeah, like it's almost like a peasant getting with a princess.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say Beauty and the Beast. That was a peasant game.
Oh no, the Pauper and the Prince.
Yeah.
Like that sort of vibe. Yeah.
And I think I'm not quite sure. I might be getting my films mixed up. But they did refer to her as princess at times, didn't they? Either the dad or.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not too sure. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure that the dad referred to the daughter. Again, this is from first time viewing, so if I'm wrong here, I'm more likely to be wrong. But like she was at times referred to as being the princess, but again, I've recently watched other things that are all
blended.
Yeah. So I think I may have got myself confused there.
Well, what do you think of the climax, the ending, where the dad stabs everyone? Do you think it's earned? Do you think that is set up, and throughout were you feeling a sort of tension that something like that might happen?
I was more feeling like there was going to be a verbal confrontation rather than a physical confrontation. It felt like I feel like maybe the dad could have had a conversation with him first, being like, well, I didn't always have a decent life, and he's lying, saying like, oh, I used to live like this, and you shouldn't talk like that about certain people. And he goes, and the dad of the rich family will just like put him off, even though he's talking about his actual circumstances at the moment, and just putting it off as like, oh, I used to live like this, like you shouldn't talk about people who live like that, because I used to be one of them. And then the dad goes, oh, well, you're not like that now, you're better, like. And
I can see where you're coming from.
Almost setting up more through. It felt like the dad was quite level-headed at times, and I know the idea was he was quite impulsive at the same time. Like he says about how he never has a plan, so that a plan can't fail.
This is the poorer dad.
Yeah.
We're using these terms because we can't remember
the names. He was called Kim.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Mr. Kim.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Kim. Yeah. Mr. Kim. I smelled like radish.
That was his line name.
But I could see the build-up of him going more and more, having more and more of a hatred towards the rich dad, whose name I can't remember.
It almost came across more as jealousy than.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if he went for he was jealous of the rich dad, or that he was tired by the way the rich dad saw poorer people.
Yeah.
And he felt insulted by him. I was never quite certain on.
I'm not sure what it's like in Korea as well.
Of
I don't know
course,
if
yeah.
that's a very
there's going to be a cultural barrier.
Yeah,
There, obviously,
so
unless you live there.
I
and
don't know.
experience
I
it
don't know. Like,
firsthand.
is Korea heavily? Have they got heavily rich people and then a lot of poor people,
I can tell you.
and that big gap? I don't know.
You know, maybe we probably should have done the.
But I think that happens.
before
I think that
doing
happens all the time, mate. That happens in the
Like,
UK as well.
I think in most cultures there is that divide in any way in every person's life, especially like, and it may be there is especially like a divide in Korea and South
There's
Korea.
elements of kind of
Like, you know, it's definitely happening in North Korea with a divide between the poor and the rich. Like, anyone basically, you know, unless you're part of the military, you're
Are they still at war, North and South Korea?
Cold War.
Yeah, because
They're
they
on,
had that
they're
little
on
reference,
better
didn't
terms
they?
now than they were. They were like, they're on much better terms than they've been in a long time. But it's still like a bit of a. I think it's about fake pleasantries right now.
They had that little reference about pushing the send button.
Yeah,
Would be like starting a war.
Mm.
And there was a lot of kind of Western USA kind of connotations as well, because I think that there's a poster where it says Mr. Park is the name of the rich dad. Mr. Park is in Central Park, and that's obviously where he's got his wealth, is from the West. And then their house is taken by German people, which are obviously maybe I'm reading too much into
there
it.
was another sort of bit that I wanted to pick up, which I noticed in the film, is they were speaking about how there was a ghost in the house, but what they didn't know is there was a guy downstairs.
Yep.
And he was the ghost that they're thinking of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just built up.
Yo, that's so freaky though that they have them. They have them basements in South Korea. Sorry.
Well, it's more just
in case
the
of war.
richer houses, isn't it?
It probably brings us nicely to look at the Oscars.
Yeah.
And obviously we haven't seen all the films. We've probably seen, hopefully, as much as we can.
I'm pretty sure I've only seen
They,
two.
they also
Oh,
have
three,
coming out
actually.
at this sort of stage as well, aren't they?
A lot of awards. The award season is effectively over now, so we can go through maybe the best picture, the best screenplay, best director, and kind of based on that infer what we would have chosen for that
Very
award.
true.
So we're doing a Nathan, Charlie, and Tom award ceremony as if we were the Oscars, the Academy.
Are we going off a voting system, or are we going off just like, here's what independently you think?
We'll go
Alright.
off. We'll just see what
I
happens. I
can't
guess.
say I've watched all these.
No, same.
Of course, I want to see
I've
some
watched
of them.
3 for the best picture, and
Okay.
For example, on the nominations, The Irishman. I can't get round to watching it.
No, I haven't
It's
seen
too
it.
long, innit?
no.
But I have seen. How many have I seen? 4 out of 4.
What
That's
we
have
did
you
that,
seen?
didn't we?
Should we go through what
That's
we've
bad.
seen first of all, and then if there's some similarities, we can discuss that film a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I could probably guess what you two would pick for best picture,
Oh, okay.
but
Out of interest, you guess.
I think you'd both pick 1917.
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
I've definitely picked
It is the only.
1917.
It's the film I've watched twice because I'm lucky enough to know someone who by chance who was one of the extras on the film. So I've rewatched it with him, giving me a bit of like backstage information.
It's our inside guy.
Yeah.
But we did watch it in 4DX.
Yeah. As well.
4DX.
It was.
That is an experience. If any of you people at home want a real cinema experience, 4DX is fantastic.
Can you explain a bit more what 4DX is?
Oh,
for people who
it's
don't know?
sorry.
That's
it's a real cinema experience, but we're going off topic. It's basically the chairs move and wind blows in your face and
Get splashed.
lights flash and you. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
Like wind blow. Yeah, as when like an explosion goes off, you'll get like the impact of that.
Oh yeah, like
explosion, you'll feel it.
vibrations in your seat.
It's not just
whatnot.
like the bass. It's like
Yeah.
the actual force of that. You feel it on you.
Yeah, I've never seen a film with 4DX, and I think that would probably be the perfect film to see in 4DX, wouldn't it?
Mate,
Yeah,
honestly.
Because that film is such an experience. It's not really a film; it's more of a. You've got to kind of take a look back and appreciate how it's kind of crafted.
Like, and when you know about information like such as like the singing scene where they're all sat in the forest, and that took 4 days to film.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's like something that probably would have took a day for any other film. Like the amount of effort that got put into it, and like the actual sets, like the White Trench. That was just under a mile long in the end for the end sequence. That white
Where
trench
it
at the end.
runs along.
Yeah, that's just under a mile long, and with the action, there's no cuts obviously, so the action has to be as long as it would take for them to move through the set would have to be as large as it would take them to move through the set if it was a single take. And just the amount of effort and sheer work that went into it, and I'm glad it got I think we're skipping ahead a bit, but best cinematography, and it is so deserving of that.
So for me, you guys both saying best picture would go to 1917?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I would have said, before I rewatched the film, I would have said Marriage Story, because I just find that film really beautiful. It's probably one of my favourite films now.
Mm-hmm.
But after rewatching Parasite, I would have to say Parasite. And obviously Parasite did win, but for our Oscars, 1917 has won the best picture. So we'll move on to let's do the screenplay, because I think we might have read most of them. Maybe 1917 won visual effects, Tom.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, I don't think it. I think Avengers Endgame should have won visual effects because of its seamless. For people who don't know, it's like obviously they had these big VFX shit shows with the big battles at the end, but there's like things they use VFX for that you wouldn't have expected. Like if you watch the Captain America fight, that was all done on a green screen with CGI shields. They didn't use real shields because obviously if you hit Chris Hemsworth? Evans, sorry. If you hit him and he gets hurt, that means he can't film. So we don't want your actors hitting each other with shields. Let's make CGI shields that they pretend to hit each other with. And it's all, as I say, it's all done. And it's when you watch it, it looks like they're in a skyscraper, but in reality, that's a green screen, and they're on a set. And I don't think, without being pointed out, like I never would have noticed the other actor. That was just another actor with a CGI helmet on.
Yeah,
like, he wasn't even wearing a helmet, and it's just the little things like that for me were just like it's the use of CGI was seamless.
Yeah,
I'd say, and that's why like you wouldn't go, yeah, that's CGI. Whereas I'm not quite sure. Again, I don't know when the CGI was used in 1917.
There's some rats and stuff where you can kind of tell it. It kind of sticks out a bit. There's a bit of a rat, isn't there?
Yeah, in the German bunkhouse when. I think that's obviously CGI. Whereas if you have the when you compare that to what happens in Endgame with the pretty much constancy, weirdly enough, the rat in Endgame was real. You're the one who triggers Ant-Man. Yeah, the rat that comes and triggers Ant-Man to come back. That was a real rat.
Which is a really stupid plot point.
Yeah, obviously.
I didn't fall asleep to Endgame.
Oh, that's Charlie's vote of confidence that he didn't fall asleep.
Yeah. Do you know what? Wait, can I tell this story about Endgame?
Yeah, go for it.
Go on then. So me and my friend watched the Endgame, and I got it ruined for me halfway through watching it, man, because some idiot on the front row, Manchester Odeon, I remember you.
This is why you hate Manchester.
This is why I don't like Odeon, because it's cold and people have ruined films for me. But do you know when Scarlett Johansson dies?
Yeah, spoiler alert for Avengers.
Black Widow. Yeah, spoiler alert. Some idiot shouted out, "Iron Man dies!" halfway through when she was dying, and then lo and behold, he dies. But then at the end of the film, I don't know what altercation happened, what words were said, but there was a big fist fight at the end of the film. And yeah, that was the worst cinema experience I've ever witnessed, because there were people talking as well. I just wanted to watch my superhero film. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
But
If any film,
Sorry, let's go on, mate.
any film for that to happen, it would be Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
So
Oscars, remember?
we're
Oscars,
back to the Oscars.
Right, back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So we're on the original screenplay. How many of these films have you seen? Have you seen 3?
Yeah, I've seen 3.
What about you, Charlie?
Read one
I've
of the
seen
scripts.
3 as well.
I've seen all of them.
You've seen all of
I've
them?
seen all 5 of these.
Have you?
What one have you read, Tom?
1917.
What's that script like?
It's quite good. It's like you can tell, like, as I say, like with the amount of planning that would have needed to go into it. That was obviously the groundwork for that was obviously set up within the scripts as well. So it was quite a lot of.
Are you talking about 1917? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much talking in that though.
Yeah,
Really?
so that's why the actual actions of the actors was more, or I'd say it was quite.
It needs to be so rehearsed.
Yeah, it was rehearsed, so there was more detail within the action than what you would typically have, and they weren't too much left up to the actors in the way they positioned themselves, and that was to obviously support the idea of the way we were going to film it. It weren't like they wanted to take the creative control away from the actors. It's just to make the process of actually being able to film it much more smoother by being able to plan things out with the camera crews ahead of schedule, so then when they bring the actors in, so much is already planned, and then they just needed to tweak things to work with the actors.
Absolutely, yeah.
But actual screenplay, right?
Yeah, well, obviously we haven't read the screenplays apart from Tom's read 1917. I've read a bit of Marriage Story as well. I listened to a podcast where Noah Baumbach talks about it. But just based on kind of maybe more the structure of the film, the characters, the dialogue, obviously Parasite, that's quite hard because you'd assume it's been lost in translation a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe some lines don't come across as well.
Yeah.
But would you agree with the Academy in giving Parasite the best original screenplay?
I've got to be honest, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for me.
Yeah, same.
The way
we've not spoke about it yet, have we?
No, the way plotting works in that, and the way characters, the dialogue. Obviously, we can't compare dialogue for Parasite, and Once Upon a Time is very difficult to do that. But the way the characters and everything's set up, I've watched it twice, and watched it in the cinema when it first came out, and then I've watched it at home since it's had a DVD release. And the second time viewing it was I think it was a much better experience than the first time. The first time you're kind of questioning where everything's going, because if you haven't watched it, it hasn't got like quite the most bookend. It's not got quite the most defined ending. It has like an ending sequence that's really enjoyable, but it doesn't have. It carries, the story continues after the film ends, which is a bit frustrating, but the actual part of the story that you see is just so well written and crafted, and I think it speaks volumes with how much you want to keep watching, even though you've already sat through 3 hours worth of dialogue and beautiful camera work and action, that you want to keep watching it and see where this man's career goes even further now that he's got this new chance with meeting these Sharon Tate that lives next door.
So for me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I did enjoy it, I did like it, but I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but you need the kind of knowledge of the Manson murders to kind of feel a sense of tension. For me, there wasn't really a sense of tension because I didn't really know much about Sharon Tate and her death, her murder. So when I was watching it, I wasn't watching it with a sense of kind of anticipation of what might happen. I don't know about you two, but how much knowledge did you know before you watched that film?
I watched, Charles Manson, documentaries and stuff like that. He's come up in like American Horror Story as well.
Oh, yeah.
I watched that. That had been put on Netflix, and I recently watched that as well. So I was quite familiar with the Manson family and through.
Oh, fair enough.
Because I'm drawn to those types of stories as well.
But you, Charlie, did you know?
I knew about the Mansons. Bit of a lunatic, innit? Crazy. Yeah.
Do not condone those acts.
Yeah, don't do LSD. And if a weird bearded guy comes up to you in his hippie old van saying no,
swastika.
kids. As cool as he seems,
Hip and happening.
yeah,
Well, he gave off this like rock star aura, and
yeah, he did.
it's how most of the young kids he was able to influence.
Were he mates with
Beach Boys.
the Beach Boys?
Yeah, the drummer of the Beach Boys, and
He supposedly has songs with the Beach Boys as well,
He
doesn't
wrote
he?
one of the songs, but he doesn't have a credit because basically the drummer stole it. He gave it to the drummer and said, "Here, have one of my songs."
Yeah.
So he changed the name, changed a few of the words, and then took his name off the song
Yeah.
and gave it as his own. And that's why he targeted the Sharon Tate home, because that's the house where the Beach Boy used to live.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh, okay. I
It's
didn't
all
know
sort of
that.
coming back to me now.
so that is what I got from research and documentaries and stuff like that. He had this
Yeah.
sort of fixation on this house because that's where this other person lived, and since he couldn't get revenge.
Don't we see him in Once Upon a Time?
Yeah,
He's
one
in one
point.
scene.
Yeah, one
he
scene.
comes to the house, and that's when he learns that
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
Beach Boy doesn't live there anymore. Because he was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm here to see my friend," and he goes, "Well, your friend doesn't live here anymore. It's the Tate estate now."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming back to me. I think that film probably deserves a rewatch with that kind of knowledge.
Yeah. Feet, mate. If you have a foot fetish out there, go watch that film
was,
again.
Quentin Tarantino's foot fetish.
Yeah.
Full blown action at that point.
There's a bit of feet in Parasite as well. Did you notice?
Oh yeah, the dad's dirty feet when he's crawling across the floor.
Yeah, there were a few bits of feet, weren't there, with the mistress or what? Not the mistress, the wife. Sorry.
I was dead
Feet.
confused how his feet got so dirty. Probably from being in the basement, weren't
Ah,
it?
So you guys are both going for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for your best original screenplay.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I would have to go Marriage Story. Like I said, it's just a beautiful film. If you haven't watched it,
Haven't watched it. I will watch it though.
yeah,
Netflix.
maybe we'll watch it together and then we'll do another review like this.
Can I say something? Yeah. I
Yeah.
think. Is it the first time Netflix has been like nominated for stuff? Because I've never seen that before. We're in a new age of film, my friends.
Well, they still have to have a cinema release, don't they, to qualify?
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
after
is it?
that, they go to Netflix.
Yeah, because I seen what's that film with Adam Sandler in?
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. Yeah, that's on Netflix now. But I remember seeing it. I've not seen it, but I remember seeing it advertised in one of the cinemas,
It's
but
the
not on a big wide release.
It's same with Two Popes, isn't it? That was
Is that a Netflix
Yeah,
one
that's
as well?
a Netflix one as well.
Okay.
I think they've been nominated before, but I think it was maybe their first win. If they did, I don't know. I can't even remember if they won anything.
we'll have to.
But we'll scroll up, shall we? Should we go to where should we go?
Should we just go down the list and have a discuss of the Oscars?
Yeah, we'll
Might as well, since
keep
we're on the
going.
topic.
I suppose we'll go to actors, won't we?
Yeah.
We've got actor in a leading role.
Well-
Have you seen any of these, Tom? You've
I've
seen Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, that's the only one, I'm afraid. So I can't really make comment.
Have you not
on...
seen The Joker?
No, I never. Everyone went without me,
Wow.
and then I was like, "Well, I'm not
Alright.
going on my own." 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
a
I've seen The
self-conscious
Joker,
person.
but yeah, that was that was really good. I think deservedly wins that.
Yeah, I think.
Joaquin Phoenix,
Jack-
definitely. What? How do you say it?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin.
I thought it was Jackie.
Don't know, man. He's like,
Fuck it.
okay.
Like from every, I can't really debate otherwise. Really, since I have watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I will say like Leonardo DiCaprio does amazing as always. He showed. I remember when he was talking about an award, Brad Pitt and Leonardo were talking about. When they first got cast as the role, they asked, "Is there any way you want us to show these washed up has-been actors?" And Tarantino just said, "Well, just play yourself." And I think that I'm not quite. I didn't do much research into the process of actually making the film, but from what I actually saw on screen, his performance is absolutely brilliant and deserves in full well his nomination. But I can't, without watching The Joker, I can't tell you who deserves it better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think Joaquin Phoenix is probably deserved winner. I think Adam Driver's probably close, but a bit behind in terms of performance. I haven't seen Pain and Glory and I haven't seen The Two Popes. But like, and again, Marriage Story is one of my favourite films of 2019. So
I think it's very. I really enjoyed The Joker. It shows him as he portrays that character so well, and I'm gonna say this, better than Heath Ledger.
Oh, controversial.
I know. I just think it's more of a character-driven story, which I really like, and it's very different for like a superhero or supervillain sort of film as well. And I think we were saying when we saw the nominations, isn't it the first sort of superhero villain which has been nominated for Best Picture?
We had Logan.
Oh, Logan was
Logan
another one,
nominated?
wasn't it?
Logan was nominated for Oscars.
Yeah, I do like that. I do like that sort of trend which is going on with DC Marvel films at the minute.
But it's never been the Marvel Cinematic Universe that's been nominated. It's always been the external ones, and even like a DCU. This Joker's not part of the DCU, is it?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
It's not even called the DCU, is it? In their eyes, it's something else, and they just.
Is it the DCEU or something?
No,
DC
it's not that.
Universe?
No, they called that as a joke, didn't they? It was a reporter said it as a joke in a review of Batman vs Superman, and ever since then, they've not been able to. Everyone thought they were serious about calling it that, and since DC is it Sony? No. Well, anyway, DC have never actually said.
Is it Warner Bros? It might be something.
Yeah, it's Warner Brothers most likely. But since DC have never actually openly said this is what our cinematic universe is called, please use this. Everyone calls it the DCEU, and it was said as a joke, and everyone thinks it's serious because someone did it as sarcasm in a review because it was so blatantly obvious they wanted to copy the success of Marvel.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the Robert Pattinson Batman at least, so maybe we've got something to look forward to.
Well, Robert Pattinson definitely changed your mind on him as a performer since The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Which
actually is a good subject because.
Is that not on there?
No,
Or it doesn't qualify?
It does qualify. And,
it does?
It only got nominated for one thing, which I think might have been cinematography. So would you argue that there was maybe another actor that deserved it? Or deserved to be nominated? Would you say Robert Pattinson, maybe Willem Dafoe?
William Dafoe, would definitely say if I would put him supporting cast, he definitely should have been nominated.
Yeah, supporting actor Willem Dafoe.
But Robert Pattinson, I'm not quite sure his, even though he's very well acted, I'm not quite sure his performance stands out as the defining performance of his career. But it's. I would say for me, watching him in the first time in anything other than Twilight, it's definitely changed my opinion of him as an actor.
He's in some very good films. He's in Good Times, which is directed by the Safdie brothers who did the Adam Sandler thing Charlie was talking about, Uncut Gems, and he's in High Life, which is set in space. It's quite a weird film, but I would recommend both of them. He's quite good in both of them. Should we move on to actress? I'm not sure we've seen many. I've only seen one of these, which is The Marriage Story.
I won't be able to input anything on this.
Nah.
I'm afraid it's...
Sorry, ladies. I know you're all probably really good, but I haven't seen any of them. Literally none of them, and I'm doing a film review.
Yeah. We just need to watch more films, I think. I'm hoping to watch Little Women soon, but I haven't got around to the others.
I could join in with the discussion of should we have the actress and actor categories, which I agree we shouldn't, or we should have the best overall actor rather than having the actress actor section.
Yeah.
Just because instantly by segregating, you're saying each one's different and should be viewed differently when you should view both as the same.
I think it's set up for an equal chance.
Yeah.
I think it probably does give that, especially because there's five possible people who could be nominated. So if you have a mix, it's always going to be 3 males, 2 females.
Well, you can just open it up to 6
females,
for that
2
category. They make the rules.
Scarlett Johansson is fit though.
Okay, Charlie.
You're disgusting.
I sound like such a misogynistic person.
Yeah.
Right, okay, keep going, boys. Let's
We're gonna-
this one.
Everyone's gonna like watch it.
Actor in a
Sound-
supporting role:
Right.
Tom Hanks, Anthony Hopkins, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, and winner Brad Pitt. What do we think, boys? I took over Nathan's
I would
role.
say Brad Pitt's character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a really good character, but I would say the character to watch in that film was Leonardo DiCaprio's. So I don't know. As I say, I haven't watched the other ones, so I'm not quite sure if he's more deserving over the other people. But I would say his character wasn't the character of that film. It was certainly definitely like a really interesting and maybe even the cooler character to watch, but he wasn't the more interesting character to be acted out as.
Yeah, and I think this one is definitely where you would argue Willem Dafoe for The Lighthouse. I think he's stands out more than I've seen The Irishman and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I think he stands out as a supporting actor. He was pretty decent in The Lighthouse.
And
I would say
I always say like his, just from like facial features alone, like he has been having such this defined face, and the way they're able to use that to their advantage with the shadows, just casting him physically alone was such a good call on, with the way they were going to film.
Yeah, and the farts.
That was probably the biggest snub of the Oscars this year.
Yeah, I actually would agree. Maybe Adam Sandler as well for Uncut Gems. He's very good in that. Maybe not a win, but maybe a nomination for Best Actor. Should we move on to actress?
I fell asleep in that one as well.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen any of these. I've seen
briefly though, not that long.
I've seen Laura Dern and Marriage Story and Scarlett Johansson and Jojo Rabbit. Have you seen any of these?
Jojo Rabbit's on my list to watch. Still, again, it was one of those things that everyone went and watched without me. I was working at the time. Everyone went. So.
I've not seen it.
Oh,
you want to go watch it?
Is it still in cinemas? We can go watch
it must be. Yeah, let's go watch it.
Well,
and then we'll come back and do another review.
Nah, I can't.
But yeah, I can't argue for or against. I think next time if we were going to do this, I would have to watch every film.
Yeah, we didn't really prepare for an Oscars chat, but it's kind of turned into that. So we apologise that we haven't watched the full range of films. We're talking about the Oscars more than the people nominated. But I would probably agree with Laura Dern out of the list I've seen, and Scarlett Johansson is very good in Jojo Rabbit. She just doesn't feature that much. She is very much a supporting role without trying to spoil the film. You know what I mean? Animated feature film. I've watched 2 of these films. I Lost My Body. I watched that the other day actually, and I've watched Toy Story 4. Have you seen any of these?
Again, it's one of the ones I haven't watched.
You haven't watched any of them?
No. Toy Story for me, it's never been something. Like I've watched it growing up, but it's not been something that I've ever gone, oh, I really like Toy Story. It's not one of those animated films growing up, which I've been like, yeah, that's my favourite. Mine was always Lost, Land Before Time, and Way Back, A Dinosaur Story growing up. So
yeah, I used to have a picture.
That I'm an adult.
Sorry.
Toy Stories and that appealing to me to watch, and same with the Missing Link never stood out as being like going, oh yeah, I really want to watch that. Claws, unless it's Christmas time, I'm not going to be interested in watching a Christmas animated film. The one that looking on there based off posters, I Lost My Body looks the most appealing
that's
to me.
A Netflix one as well. It's a French film, I believe. I think it's written by one of the producers or writers who wrote Amelie. I don't know if you've seen Amelie. Obviously, Missing Link is a Leica film, and I really like Leica films like Coraline, Paranorman, that kind of stuff. But for me, sometimes they're a lot more style based. Because Leica has such a distinctive style. Sometimes character and story are left behind. Kubo and the Three Strings as well, which is fantastic.
Do you know what's a big stub of the? Not snub. Yeah, it's late tonight. Pokemon movie.
Oh, the Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Would you really class that as an animated film?
I don't think that's animated.
Nah, I know it's not animated. I mean,
like
I'm just generalising like
VFX.
the whole thing.
Well, I think there's a lot of reused assets.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that.
Actually, yeah, it's a bit shit.
It is.
I just
Because they created the model and then each Pokemon looked identical. Obviously they do in the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you could give them a. Obviously they kept to the world of Pokemon, but
I don't
when
think it looked that good either.
Yeah. I had the biggest disappointment.
You just said Detective Pikachu should have been here, and now you're arguing against it because.
Nah, no, I was only joking, innit? I was trying to make a giggle, but yeah, it's the biggest disappointment for me. I was actually looking forward to that film, as I used to play Pokemon, and it just didn't.
It's just
It's good, man. That the trailer looked mint as well. Like the trailer looked really good, and then
all the best shots are in the trailer.
yeah, all the best shots are in the trailer. Rubbish.
yeah, it isn't great.
It isn't great.
Cinematography now. This is the one that we've already kind of talked about. We've talked about Roger Deakins and 1917, which I think we probably all agree was the winner and should have been the winner.
Easy.
Should we, since we haven't got any more thoughts on 1917 and if it shouldn't, what about second? What was second place for you guys?
Second would be The Lighthouse, I think, just because the way that kind of the cinematography is kind of almost a character in that film. The way it sets up the atmosphere, and it kind of makes it claustrophobic, and it's just I think that's second for me.
Yeah, same.
Exactly.
I don't know if
You
lighting.
disagree more?
No, I completely agree. I don't know if lighting comes under cinematography, but I'm a big nerd for lighting in films and the way they used pretty much natural lighting. It felt like in The Lighthouse, for most scenes they were lit by a single oil lamp in the side of the corner of the room, and then the moonlight coming in through the other side. So you created such these harsh shadows which created so much drama in scenes, and it was just beautiful for me.
That's quite a strong lineup right there.
Yeah.
Because I could say all them films.
Yeah, like Once Upon a Time in
amazing.
Hollywood. Like, when have you ever seen a poorly shot?
Same with the
Tarantino
Joker.
film?
With the Joker, there's so many shots in that which are
I would say
very stand out to the film. That probably make the film. For example, when he's dancing down them stairs. How many times have you seen that online?
yeah. I would say like the one film that I'm surprised isn't on there is Parasite. For some of the shots they have in there are really well done. I'd say they're on a similar level to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I couldn't tell you about Irishman or Joker, but I'm surprised Parasite isn't up there for.
That's a strong
cinematography.
Strong 5 that though.
Yeah, I couldn't argue against the Irishman or the Joker, but
I'll have to disagree on you that one. I think them ones are better. Okay.
What about should we talk a bit about Queen and Slim? I know that it's not been nominated for anything, but we did watch that the other day.
Yeah.
We didn't record a review on it. Maybe we should have. But what do you think it deserved any nominations?
I'll be honest. For as much as it was a good film, I don't think it's quite on the level of other ones here. Especially for me, I always found it very convenient who would recognise them at what time. So, they go into a bar, and the only person that seems to recognise them are the people that are on their side, or they get found by a policeman, but it just so happens that this policeman's black and relates to their troubles, and I felt a lot of the time, it was just very convenient, and they weren't much like in the sense of like, oh, don't worry, they're on their side when they got found.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful cinematography wise. I think it's a well shot film. There's so many very scenic, serene shots in there which catch the eye.
Better than this 5?
Nah. Very good though.
I'd say like there was a few shots in there that I was like, don't like that. Like there's one in the car where
I know what you're on about.
They're framed to the left and he's looking over to the left side, and I don't think there was. And I know there is times where you break the norm of having the actor look into the the close space rather than the open space when you're framing your figure, but I don't think at that point it was quite the time to have your actor breaking the mold of what was standardly being.
I think there are some really experimental shots in that film, but they just they're experimental, they're good shots, but they just don't fit in with the
sometimes they don't
with
feel
what
like
is
they have
going
a
on.
reason to be breaking norms or breaking
Yeah,
the shot
is that
standards.
there was one when they was in the pickup truck and there was a shot. Jenny, you remember that from behind?
Yeah.
Of them filming inside to the back
yeah.
windscreen. I didn't really think that was a necessary shot. It was a good shot. Like I didn't think it looked really nice,
for the sake
but
of a shot rather than a shot to tell the story.
Yeah. Okay.
There were shots to be like cinematic and good looking, but they didn't have much substance to them.
I do think Daniel Kaluuya is a very good actor. But I think that performance wasn't really. It was good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it stood out like the other 5 did for best actor.
Like Get Out was a much better performance than
or
a more defining performance for the actor rather than.
I have a thing for when UK actors, because I know he's a UK actor. You have an American accent. I don't know. Plays an American role. I find it a bit strange.
You couldn't tell. I don't think. Could you tell?
I don't know, a little bit, but
I didn't know he was a British actor.
Did
so
you not? Okay,
helps.
well, work for Tom, but
Later.
okay.
I've skipped a few because
we'll be here all day.
Yeah, we'll be here all day, and also we don't know all the films, so we haven't watched them all. But I've brought us to music, original score. So Joker won that. There's Joker, Little Woman, 1917, Star Wars, which I think is maybe its only nomination, and
no, it got VFX. It got VFX as well.
VFX.
Well nominated, but yeah.
What a surprise!
Would you agree with Joker?
I couldn't add.
Oh yeah, of course, Charlie.
I didn't listen to it. Do you know what I mean?
Are you asleep?
Yeah, no, I stayed awake for that one. I watched that with my mum. I don't know why that meant, but yeah, I remember watching it. I don't remember the music particularly, but fair play.
Yeah, for 1917, like the music, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It didn't stay with me, but at the time I do remember it added a lot to the
I was surprised Star Wars has actually been nominated because did they not just use? Did they not just use the same? Yeah,
they always just use like a remastered version, like a new version of the same theme every time, and then they'll go, "All right, it deserves an Oscar for reusing the same theme that it reused."
That was my major problem with Star Wars, really, because it wasn't very atmospheric, and for John Williams, who's a fantastic writer composer, and he's got all these fantastic Star Wars songs, especially.
Of course,
there isn't an original in that film that stands out like you're saying. So for that, it almost wouldn't even be on the list for me, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
I can't mention a film that would be on there ahead of it off the top of my head.
It's like when you think of the original Star Wars, like whenever I think of the shot of Luke looking at the is it 3 suns or 2?
Yeah, I know you mean 2. I think I can't remember. I know the shot. I'll put it on the screen now.
Multiple suns, and I can't think of that image without hearing the song.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for me, I can't think of the 1917 song and that any score for that. I can't think of any score for any of the films. Well, it's the only film I've watched was 1917, but so I can't argue for that being.
You've not
the
seen
best.
Star Wars either.
No, because I heard all the reviews. I'm not a big Star Wars person.
Okay, fair enough. You're more of a Trekkie.
No, not even. I'm not a sci-fi guy. Really.
No, you're not.
Fantasy or war epics.
I bet you watch Harry Potter.
I've watched all the Harry Potters, but it's more just because my mum likes Harry Potter. So I watch Harry Potter with her.
Okay.
Charlie's opinions don't reflect the rest of us. I just want to say that. So I'm going to cancel my YouTube channel. Charlie doesn't run it.
Cancel culture.
Okay. Right.
But I would give that Oscar to Randy Newman for Marriage Story. I just think, again, you guys really need to see it. It's just.
What is Marriage Story? Is it?
It is the guy. It's Kylo Ren.
No, I know it's Kylo Ren, but what's the plot? Is it? I'm guessing it's a divorce or a marriage?
Yeah, it's a divorce. It's the progress of a divorce.
It just seems a bit too.
So is Randy Newman
girly, to be honest.
You got a divorce today.
It's just he doesn't sing. It's all like.
You got a divorce today. Yeah.
Can you not disrespect my movie, please? It's just a really nice soundtrack. You need to watch it. It's not girly. It's just such interesting character. And the opening scene is in a therapy office, and the two characters have written a letter about
Each
other, and Adam Driver's character reads it out, and then we hear both of them, but Scarlett Johansson doesn't read it out. It's just for character, it's worth a watch. But I'll stop talking about Marriage Story.
Score-wise, where does Marriage Story sit for you against Under the Skin? Because I know that's one of your particular standout scores for you.
It's quite hard to compare the both because obviously they're completely different sounds. Marriage Story, it adds strength to the character. It's kind of like a motif for what's happening on screen, whereas Under the Skin, it's the soundtrack in that is. It's building an atmosphere. It's kind of...
Yeah, I think maybe score-wise, when it builds an atmosphere, I think maybe that's when scores are more memorable.
Perhaps, yeah.
Because when I can, thinking back on Under the Skin, another thing, going back to my comments on Star Wars for the original with the shot of Luke, when I ever think of that her in the Black Void sequence when she's lured another man into a cave or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't think of that without hearing the score.
It's a fantastic soundtrack.
I think maybe because the score, when a score supports an image rather than a character, that maybe when it gets more imprinted into your head of memorable.
Yeah. But I think probably Under the Skin wins if you had to compare them both. We'll just do one more, shall we? Should we do Best Adapted Screenplay? Have you seen any of these? You've just seen Joker, both of you.
Well, Charlie has. I've seen none of them, so it's another one I can't.
Yeah, okay. We'll just skip that. And that is our Oscars. Kind of summarised as best we can. Apologies, we don't know the films all that well, but we tried our best with the knowledge we have. But I thought a nice way to kind of wrap up the whole review. We've been recording for about an hour now, so we've been chatting for a long time. But
mainly Tom.
Mainly Tom.
Should we go back to Parasite then and bookend this story?
It goes back to Parasite, and we'll give a score out of 5 because if you haven't watched my channel before, I have a Letterboxd account which lets you do scores up to 5, and me and Tom both have one. So I'll leave both of them in the description. If Charlie sets one up before, I don't know if you will, Charlie, but we'll leave that in the description as well. So first of all, we'll start with you, Tom, then we'll go Charlie, then we'll finish on me just because I've already put a review out there and I might change it. So Tom, what do you think?
I was giving it a 4.5, which for me is quite unusual. I usually don't give 4.5 to films I've only watched once. I wait till I have a second opinion on them, so that might change. But yeah, I genuinely just can't think of anything wrong with the film without just being the nitpicky arsehole. So yeah, 4.5.
Charlie, out of 5?
I'd probably give it a 4, but I would give it a 5 if I was awake throughout the whole thing.
Oh wow.
So, yeah.
So, I would have given you a perfect score, but I fell asleep.
Yeah. So no, but I didn't. No,
not because you're a
no
shit
intention.
film, just 'cause I'm a shit
no
watcher.
intention. No bad intentions. But I was just tired, and I find cinemas too relaxing. So I actually just fell asleep. Not that I was actually quite gutted when I woke up. I was like, I've just fallen asleep for a bit because I think I fell asleep at the bit where they all just started getting the jobs. Because I saw
the most important part.
Yeah, I saw when they had to fire the
driver.
The driver, yeah, sorry, can't get my words out. When they fired the driver because she slipped her panties off and left him in the car, and I think literally after that I fell asleep and then woke up and the old maid was ringing on the door.
Well, they got rid of her by convincing...
Really? That's a big chunk.
Is that a big chunk?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's quite a big chunk. They got rid of her by
I got the gist of what was happening though, really. They'd all just got a new job. So how did you get fired then?
Well, they convinced the mum of the rich house that the housemaid had TB.
She was ill, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Because she's allergic to peaches. So they,
Oh, right. That was a reference I didn't understand
That's
when they
was
were
scrapping. She
yeah,
threw peaches
like
on her.
they scrapped her and like, oh, let's not like knock her out or anything. Let's rub her face with peaches.
sort of
Right.
she wouldn't understand.
Yeah, man. Right, sorry. Yeah, we've been sat here for an hour and we watched it about 2 hours ago as well. Yeah,
Yeah, 4.
I got 5 out 4. If 5 if I'd stayed awake though.
Okay. Controversially, I'm gonna give it a 5, and I'm gonna explain my reasoning. I know Tom's not a big fan of giving films a 5, but I would give it. I gave it a 4.5 before I rewatched it, which out of 10 is a 9, if we were rounding up. So if I could, I would give it 9.5 out of 10. Which would be like a 4.75, but on Letterboxd you can't do that, so I've just rounded it up to a 5. Obviously there's problems like stuff when they watch videos on their phone, news reports. I'm not a big fan of that. That's a problem I had with the Joker as well, when it adds letters to reveal plot points. I'm not a huge fan of it, but 4.75 if I could give that, but I can't, so I'm going to round it up to a 5.
Just explain my
4.75, you weird guy.
why
I
I
rounded it up.
Okay.
why I don't like 5 stars. It's just because it says it's like there's nothing wrong with it, but there's always something wrong with everything.
Yeah.
Innit?
I understand why you're saying 5, but really, in reality, it's like just below it. But you
Imagine
can't.
it was a 10, and I've given it a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. Which
Alright.
is like what I would give the films that I give 5s.
Yeah, I
On
really
the
give
very
out
rare
5s.
occasion that I'll
Same.
award.
He would have to emotionally touch me from the head to the toes.
You hear that, filmmakers? If you want to give get 5 stars off Charlie, you got to suck him off.
That's
give
getting
you
cut
the-
from the review.
Okay.
So we'll just end it there. Thank you very much for watching. Charlie and Tom, do you have any social media where we can find you both? I'll put it in the description as well.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, Charlie Johnson. Simple as that.
Yeah, I've still just got my. I've got a photography page now, which is the Hedgehog's Photography. I think I've not gone on there for a while, but
It'll be in the description.
but also my private, just sort of shit posting of general stuff is just the Hedgehog's Dilemma still.
Well, thank you very much for both of you for joining me. Thank you very much for everyone at home watching. I hope you made it through the full video. I'm not sure how long it will be now, but we've been recording for over an hour. Hopefully we can do another review like this. Are you guys on board?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's what happens when you get us 3 chatting, man. We don't stop, really.
No.
If there's any films you'd like us to review,
Some
leave it
more
in the
than
description
others.
as well. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.